joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. So glad you could join us tonight. Tonight I'm going to show you something that I don't often do, but it's one of my favorite seafoods. I'm going to fry oysters. And frying oysters is a little bit different than frying most fried foods. They're very delicate, and how you bread them makes a big difference. And so I'm going to show you that process. I have frozen oysters, and I have them thawing right now in cold water, and because you want to be very careful with seafood. So when you're thawing seafood, you want to do it in ice water. When they're finished, and they'll be finished soon, I'm going to show you how to bread them and fry them to get the light, crunchy oysters that I prefer, and my guess is you do too. So I'll be back in a few and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, we're going to start our oysters. And you need to start your oysters a little bit ahead of time because they need to sit in the breading for a while. So this is the breading I use. This is flour. This is all-purpose flour. You can use self-rising. If you do, you don't add salt. I just happen to have all-purpose flour because I've been making pie crust. So we have a cup of flour, and because that's not all-purpose, I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoonful of salt. Then I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of panko crumbs and a 1/2 cup of matzo meal. Now, with most breading, I would tell you you could use cornmeal if you prefer. I'm going to say with oysters not to use cornmeal. And cornmeal is a different kind of coarse. If you want to use it on your shrimp, that's fine. If you want to use it on your fish, that's fine. A lot of people do. I prefer the matzo meal because of the color that cornmeal imparts. I don't care for it, and it tends to burn more quickly. But for oysters, I'm going to say don't ever use cornmeal. Use a breading that's primarily a soft breading like flour. The panko adds just a tiny little bit of crunch, and I'm not playing with this just to play with it. I'm spreading it out because oysters have to be handled kind of carefully, and I'll show that to you when we get to that step. And we're almost there. Be back just a minute. Buy oysters in the grocery store. They are likely to come in a container like this, unless you're lucky and you can buy fresh oysters, or unlucky because then you have to shuck them. And shucking oysters can take some time. When you buy them like this, unless you're going to cook them that day, bring them home and freeze them. Oysters are pretty perishable, and you need to take extra care with them. These were bought at the store, came home, put them right in the freezer. So when I got ready to thaw them out, I submerged them in ice water, and it really doesn't take them very long to thaw. And if you see, they're sealed inside this plastic jar. So we're going to pop the seal on them. I'm pretty sure they're thawed all the way through. Got to get a little leverage, hold on. well, maybe I'm not going to get the leverage. And I'm going to pour them out into a colander. And let the juice drain off. And if you like oysters, you'll love that smell. Fred doesn't like oysters. He's laughing at me. So you handle them fairly carefully and spread them out on top of the breading. This is the breading mixture I just showed you. This is the reason I put it in a flat container. Okay. So here they are in the breading, and very carefully turn them over. Most seafood, fish, shrimp, scallops, you wet them to bread them, but of course your oysters are already wet. And so you gently let them sit in the breading and they will bread themselves. But you do want to make sure that you leave them in the breading long enough that it can make a coating before you start frying. So to do that, I'm going to put these in the fridge, and I'm going to take care of all the other bits of dinner. And the last thing I'll do is fry the oysters. I'm going to refrigerate these and I'll be right back. Well, we're ready to fry some oysters. We're going to fry shrimp too, but I'm going to do the oysters first and let you see this process. Now these have been in the refrigerator. They are very cold. They have been in the breading, and I'm going to actually put just a little bit more flour on them. I want to see what we've got here. So as they sit, they've been soaking up the breading, because you don't want to bread them heavily, because they'll just be hard. So we breaded them and put them in the refrigerator and let them sort of soak up the breading on their own. And I want to check and see if my oil is good and hot. You can do that with a drop of water, or you can do it with a little tiny piece of the breading, and that's what I'm going to do to see if it sizzles. Yes. When you're frying, it's important that the oil be hot enough. And when you're putting cold food into the oil, you do it a little slowly. So here is an oyster. I don't know if you can see, there's still a little bit of moisture around the outside, but it has enough body now to stand up in my hand. So there goes one. We'll wait till it starts sizzling. You hear my dogs. I'll show you a video of that fierce 4-pound dog someday. And another. Now they don't have to cook long. 3 to 4 minutes. You don't want to overcook oysters. Because the wonderful thing about them is their texture, not just their flavor. You don't want to ruin their texture by cooking them too long. So we've got a really good sizzle going here. I didn't need the oil to be quite this deep for the oysters, but I do for the shrimp. So I just went ahead and got it in there. So we have a really good sizzle going on here. And don't get in a hurry. If you've watched any of my videos about frying before, you know you wait until the food lets go from the cast iron naturally. You don't rush it. And they're starting to rise. See, they're not stuck to the cast iron. Nudge them over. Don't grab them. Nudge them. You have enough oil in here that they're floating, and they've let go from the cast iron. So just nudge them over. Yeah, that one doesn't want to be nudged. There we go. We're watching for the nice golden brown color. And we're not quite there yet. This is the last turn. He's a little roly-poly guy. There. I know with the camera and my poor lighting, it's always hard to tell. But you can see the golden brown starting. Okay, if you can see that, we're nice and brown. There's a little crunch. See, this is brown on both sides. It's been a little longer than I said. It's been a total of 6 minutes. So I'm going to let these drain. I'm going to cook the rest of them. And then I'll come back when we plate up these wonderful crispy fried oysters. Well, here we go. Our finished seafood fry. We have shrimp. We have oysters. We have some lemon. And we have our tartar sauce and our cocktail sauce. And no, I can't wait. I'm going to have an oyster. See if you can hear it crunch. Not dried out inside, nice and crunchy on the outside, just the way you want them. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you again tomorrow.